What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Moving on to Wolves-Mavs. The Wolves end up making a late run in a similar way to what I was talking about with the Clippers earlier. They had Jaden McDaniels on Luka Doncic, and they had Anthony Edwards on Kyrie Irving. They actually both spent some time on each guy down the stretch of the game, but they were really locking in defensively and stagnating Dallas. And then on the other end of the floor is a steady diet of jump shots from Anthony Edwards and from Karl Towns. Karl Towns hit a couple of pick and pop threes off of Mike Conley pick and pop to the top of the key. Anthony Edwards was just hitting these tough pull-up jump shots. He had a one-leg pull-up on the left side. I think that was in Luka's face. And then he hit against Tim Hardaway Jr., like a body bump, little bank shot on the right side that he hit. And they take this 6-point lead. It's 106-100. And then late in the game, the Mavs get it back. There was one tough shot from 106-103. Kyrie hit like a jab step jumper in Jaden McDaniels' face from the top of the key that tied it. But every other bucket the Mavs got down the stretch was from Luka Doncic pick and roll, drawing the second defender up because for whatever reason, the Wolves were trapping Luka in these ball screens, even sometimes like 40 feet away from the basket, which was a strategy I disagreed with, which we'll get to in a minute. But they were scoring out of the slip. So the first one, they blitz Luka, hits Dwight Powell on the roll to the rim, and he gets an and one at the basket. Then Kyrie hits the jab step three to tie it at 106. The following possession, once again, I think it was Derrick Jones Jr. slips, as Karl Towns shows. They hit Derrick Jones Jr. He rolls down the lane and makes a kick-out pass to Kyrie Irving in the corner for a relatively open three. He knocks that one down. And then they ice the game from 109-106 with Derrick Jones slipping, another trap, bounce pass from Luka, hits Derrick Jones Jr., and he just goes up and dunks it with two hands, and that effectively ices the game. But I want to get back to that in a minute when we talk about the Wolves, because defensively I don't agree with that strategy. But I want to talk about Dallas's defense for a second, because they were awesome down the stretch of this game. After Ant and Cat got them back into the lead with jump shots, they fell apart with jump shots. Ant took a bunch of pull-up jump shots late. He missed them all. Karl Towns had back-to-back pick and pops where Luka made really nice rotations to top of the key to get contests, forced Cat to rush the shot, and he missed them both. They forced a team with a lot of size and power and one of the best downhill athletes in the league, and Ant, to take a bunch of jump shots down the end of the game. And then this is a Mavericks team that struggled with rebounding, and Derrick Jones Jr. came flying in for a bunch of big defensive rebounds, finished the game with 10 rebounds. The Mavericks, this is a crazy stat for you guys. Over the last 10 games, the Mavericks have the third best defense in the league. They have guys competing at the point of attack. Guys are rotating. They've got their stars locked in on defense, and they're grabbing important defensive rebounds at the end of games. That's a curious trend to see if it continues, because if the Mavs end up getting into that 12, 11, 10 range defensively for an extended stretch where they're an above average defense going into the postseason, and you have Kyrie and Luka as outstanding perimeter initiators, that's where we get to what could be a better version of the Mavs that made the conference finals a couple years ago. Again, it's not the same team. They're not as fast in terms of their wing defense, right? I like Derrick Jones Jr. and he's doing a good job. Tim Hardaway Jr., Derrick Jones Jr., and Kyrie Irving all had key possessions late where they forced Ant into jump shots. So I want to credit those guys. But obviously Dorian Finney-Smith was a little bit more of a versatile defensive player. They don't have that type of thing. But I think they have a little bit more offensive firepower off the ball. Grant Williams had a couple of big plays late in the game offensively where he just has that savvy ability to finish at the rim. He had a play where he got into Gobert's body and kind of leaned out with his left hand to finish with his left. I think this team is just a little bit more dynamic offensively than that particular Mavs team was. And if this defensive trend continues, it could be a sign of them entering into the contender tier themselves. So if they can just give me another month or two of legitimate defense to demonstrate that it's real, and now we're talking about a serious team. Kyrie Irving was incredible down the stretch. We talked about him hitting the game-tying three in ISO, and then the eventual, what basically amounted to the game winner in the right corner. But in the last 3 games, 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists, 53% from the field, 57% from 3, and 88% from the line. So after being a little iffy in that first game as he was getting his rhythm back, Kyrie is cooking with gas now. On the Wolves front, again, my main concern with them all year has been half-court offense. I'm a little worried about the types of shots they can generate. It's pretty much Ant pick and roll with Gobert, and then Conley pick and pop with Towns. It's pretty much like the 2 pet actions that you'll see them run a lot. But like when they throw bodies at Ant, you saw that play, like Ant feeds Gobert on the roll, and he gets kind of caught in no man's land, and he doesn't know how to read the floor, so he just makes a weird 1-foot jumping pass where he just turns the basketball over. They're able to basically force Ant into pull-up jump shots in those situations by offering help and ducking underneath picks, right? And then the Conley, Karl Towns one, it's one of those things where like Cat can make that shot, and he, like I said, they got back into the lead with him making that shot, but Dallas was able to rotate out of it and turn him into contested threes late. This is not a team that generates super, super high quality shots in the half court. They're still at 18th in half court offense for the season. In their last 7 games, they're now 3-4. So starting to show some cracks in the armor after heading into a tougher stretch of their schedule. They're 19th in offense over that span and 12th in defense. Their defense is slipping as well. Everything just comes down to their shot making. And this is a team that is now 20th in spot up efficiency. Like they convert spot up possessions, the 11th worst mark in the league. The Mavs in particular were completely ignoring Gobert. They were conceding shots to Jaden McDaniels too, who actually is a capable shooter, but they're not guarding him like he is, right? Anthony Edwards, they're forcing him into pull-up jump shots. On the season, he's 37%. That's 0.92 points per pull-up jump shot for Anthony Edwards. And so that's a big part of what's holding them back in the half court. And that's only going to become a bigger problem when they get into the postseason. And then lastly, I really did not like the defensive scheme against Dallas. So like one of the things that I loved about Minnesota last year is like at the end of these games, it's Jaden on an island, Ant on an island, and like we got this. Like you see Kyrie Irving trying to ISO Anthony Edwards, and he goes to a right shoulder fade, and Anthony Edwards just blocks it into oblivion. Or Kyrie tried to ISO Jaden McDaniels late in the game and ended up turning it over. Like Luka made a tough step back jump shot over Jaden about like halfway through the fourth quarter, but like make him make more shots. What I don't understand is like your defense's strength is on the perimeter in those individual matchups. Overall foot speed is not a strength of that lineup because you have 2 bigs on the floor. So when you get into rotation and they're running these 4-on-3s, suddenly that defensive personnel you have on the perimeter is not as valuable. And so why concede 4-on-3s to Dallas when you can force Luka into tough, difficult, contested pull-up jump shots over, in my opinion, Jaden McDaniels, the best perimeter defender in the league, or one of the very best perimeter defenders in the league. And so they allowed the Mavs to play 4-on-3 basketball late in the game, and they got open catch and shoot shot for Kyrie, easy roll to the basket for Dwight Powell, easy roll to the basket for Derrick Jones Jr., and that's how they ended up losing the game late. And so I didn't really agree with that strategy. I think they're capable of being a better defense than they've shown in this recent stretch. But they got a couple of tough games coming up, and then they're out of this tough part of their schedule. Their next 2 games at Orlando and at Boston. They can get through that. Things lighten up a little bit more with their schedule.